Hey everybody, it's Paula. Welcome back to my channel, Stitching in High Heels. I know it's been a while since we've had some time to spend together. Life has been really lifing here at Chateau Wilson. Nothing horrible. We've just been really busy. We did have those of you who've watched before, and I've talked about our dogs. We did have 3 dogs. And our oldest was 14 and a half, and we adopted her 2.5 years ago when she was 12. And the last 6 months, her age and some medical issues caught up with her, and we did spend quite a bit of time. We were running her, she had mobility issues, so right after about mid-December last year, she really struggled to walk and eventually ended up losing her ability to walk. So we were helping her, and we took her weekly for acupuncture and chiropractic treatments, which took up a whole lot of time because the doctor that we were using was about 2 hours away from home in Litchfield, Connecticut. So we spent 6 months giving Stormy the best quality of life that we could. And finally, about May 20th, she just declined to the point where we had to say goodbye. So she's, we miss her horribly. So do our other 2 pack members. And I apologize if the camera's shaking. Chica is in here, and she has some vision issues. She's 11, and she walked right into the tripod twice because it's not usually here, and she usually comes and sits next to me. But anyway, that was kind of the major life event here, and part of what kept me from getting upstairs here to be able to film quite a bit. Stormy, as you can imagine, with losing her ability to move around on her own, she developed a bit of separation anxiety, and we really worked to make sure that, we were spaces where she could be with us. And my craft room and where I film is upstairs, and she was a large Australian Shepherd, so getting her up and down the stairs was just really not an option. So that's mostly where I've been. Had a work trip to Boston last week. That was fun. Wish it could have been longer, and I wish the traffic hadn't been so crazy on my way out of Boston, because I initially had all intentions of getting to Stitch New England, which was not far out of my way to get home and see Pam and her shop for the first time. And there's a lot of construction on the interstates headed out of Boston, so didn't get to do that. That's disappointing, but I'll get there. So, other than that, since it's been so long, I honestly don't remember exactly which projects I've worked on since we were all together. Oh, by the way, today is Sunday, June 15th. It's Sunday afternoon. Happy Father's Day to the dads and fathers out there, human dog dads, and whatever the case may be. So, having said that, I figured the best thing to do is kind of, let's jump in with a parade. I've got some new subscribers after Pam and Steph were at Just Keep Stitching, were kind enough to shout me out, and then I didn't get to record a new video. So hopefully you'll enjoy what you see. If you do, please hit like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I'd love hearing from you. And, we'll do all the YouTube things. So my plan for today is, I think I will start, I'm just looking at what I've got laid out here. Okay, so what I'm going to start with doing is showing you, sorry, getting organized. Okay, so the plan is we're going to start with finishes. And because I've had a bunch of them already this year, which is good. Nothing huge, they're all small. And then we'll go through my whips or works in progress if you're new to FlossTube abbreviations. and we'll just go through it. None of it's going to be in any particular order. I have not done any kind of good record keeping this year, which is sad. Um, I've been struggling with WhipGo, which most of you know is a bingo style game for getting work done on whips that Jessie Marie Does Stuff came up with. I've done pretty good with the ornament ones, because I have 3 boards. One for ornaments, getting ornaments stitched that I've had kitted up for a while. One for my actual whips or works in progress, and one for FFOing or finishing ornaments that I'd stitched previously. I've been doing good with the stitched ornaments. I have not FFO'd a single piece, again, because I couldn't be up here in my craft room. So hopefully that'll change and maybe I can play catch up. And I've gotten some work done on some of my whips, but there's a few reasons for that. So I may end up chucking my actual whip board and just go with it. So let's go ahead and jump right in, shall we? We'll do finishes first and then whips. And again, the finishes also are in no real particular order. I'm just going to show them to you, and I'm going to take half a second here and find my little board, and I got my big board here, so let's get to it, shall we? So first up is the Christmastide sampler by Kathy Haberman at Hands On Design. I know a lot of you have seen this. I don't think I had this completely finished the last time we visited, but there it is. I mostly kept up with the stitch along that happened on this piece. Kathy broke it down into some really manageable sections, and we started stitching this Christmas Day or the day after. So there it is. I love it. I have not FFO'd it. It's stitched with all the recommended materials. I did buy the kit for this, and I was concerned about that charcoal linen, but it's really not bad. It's not like stark black. Next up is, if you haven't heard about a blessing sampler, because we're 6 months into the year and people have stopped talking about them, there's a tradition that says if you start and finish a sampler in the month of January, it will bring blessings to your stitching. So I decided to do this year. It's the first time I decided to do it. And I chose Blessings Be Thine by Blackbird Designs. And there's what the published design looks like. So you're going to see in a minute. I did some changes. I didn't really like this red thing over in here. Didn't feel like stitching that. Really didn't want to stitch the alphabet and that piece up there. I do like this little octagon. I think it's an octagon. Maybe it's a hexagon. Anyway, I like that little motif, but I'll probably turn that into an ornament at some point and stitch that. So really what I did was I stitched this piece here, moved some of the smaller motifs around, and moved my initials around. So I will show you. Here's what I came up with. I'm not sure what the linen is. This is something I just grabbed out of my stash. I did use most of the called for colors, except for these light pieces, which are a little ghosty on camera. They show up pretty good in person, you know, like we all say. I used a Belle Soie silk for that. But the other colors are all as designed. I kept the bird, I kept the deer, put my initials. I really liked the wreath with the Blessings Be Thine. So that was my blessing sampler. I did finish that in the month of January. This next one is a newer start. This is from Ink Circles Designs. It came out at the Nashville Market this year. Got a thread there. This is their design using the Stitch the Rainbow Night Garden threads. And let's see. Yeah, my camera doesn't focus so great. I'm definitely going to have to get a new camera here if I can get my act together and record more. So there it is. I bought a few of these designs, and of course this was the first one that I was going to stitch because, hello, elephants, right? If you know me, you know I love elephants. So this is stitched on a piece of Cream and Sugar 18 count Aida by Fiber on a Whim. That might even have been the fabric that Terresa used for her model and recommended. And then it's one strand over one square with all of the called for colors. And they're just beautiful. That blue is gorgeous. I like the purple. The gray is really a pretty color gray as well. So I do have a few more of those designs, and I'll probably be stitching them up as we go through the year. Next up is a Milh Hill button and beads kit. This is called Aurora Borealis. There you can see it's got a bunch of beads on it. I started this in late October when I had my foot surgery. And I stitched it because last year we did actually get to see the Northern Lights here in my part of New York, so it seemed appropriate. And it's stitched on the 14 count perforated paper that was provided, used all the Milh Hill, the DMC floss, Milh Hill beads, and the button. I'm really happy with how that came out. And I actually do have, I just got one of the Milh Hill frames to pop this into. I really like them for these perforated paper pieces. They're easy to pop them into. They stand up. They fit perfectly, and they're not super expensive. And they have colors that really complement the stitched pieces. So I'll be loading that up into one of those frames here shortly. Next up is another Milh Hill piece. This is Scotland Santa from their Celtic Santa series. I think that's what they called it. Did they? Let me see. Scotland Santa. Yeah, the Celtic Santa's ornament kit. A little bit of glare. Wow, a lot of glare because it's in the plastic, but that's what the cover looks like. But here is the Santa, and he's stitched with all of the provided kit materials. He's also on perforated paper, a 14 count. All the beads were stitched as called for. The only thing that's different is let me see if you can see it there. I did his mustache slightly different than called for. They wanted you to tie 2 little bows out of 6 strands of floss and put that on there, and I am not a bow tire. I mean, I can tie my shoes, but you know, when it comes to bows for any kind of decoration, not me, guys. So I just took the lengths of floss, stitched them on there, kind of cut the ends. I'm really happy with how he came out. So he's on the short list for FFOing, finally fully finishing, to get him on the tree this year. And next, I participated, or helped to host actually, a Stitchalong, still ongoing. If there's no real end date, with Beth from the Steadfast Stitcher. I'll link her below. But we both collect the Happiness is Homemade, which are the cookbooks, the annual cookbooks that are collected and put out by the designers at Nashville for the Nashville Needlework Market, and there's lots of cute little designs in here. I can't really show you anything because they're mostly just the charts. But I think there's probably 40 or 50 small designs in here. The recipes are good recipes, easy recipes, no crazy ingredients if you are into cooking as well. So we decided we were going to host a Stitchalong, start along, for designs from this year's book or any other cookbook. And I chose this little, I call it a spring cottage, doesn't really have a name, but I chose this by the Tiny Modernist. And I started it and finished it, and here it is. Sorry, I'm trying to get things organized here. Here it is. It's on a scrap of 22 count white Aida with the called for DMC threads. I just really, really love the colors in this. It's just a sweet, pretty little thing. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to finish this. probably a little bigger than I would want for a scissor fob, but I'll figure out something to do with it. This is one of my very recent finishes, and this is from the Plum Street Samplers Flag Flock and Sheep Keep design. I think I'm pretty sure that it was Stacy from the 911 Stitcher. I think she's the one who I saw that had this. And my dogs are all Border Collies and Australian Shepherds, so that little design there was perfect. And I decided after we said goodbye to Stormy that I was going to stitch that. And you can see I put her name on the bottom there. I chose to use the recommended DMC colors for everything except the smaller dog there. I used a blend of, I think, DMC 413 and 414 because our other dogs are, our Chica is gray and black and our Beau is a blue merle. I'm hoping to throw some pictures of them in. I don't know if I'm going to do a montage at the beginning when I do some editing or at some point. I'll throw a couple pictures of our kids in there. And then the rest of these are ornaments, and like I said, sorry, I got things starting to fall here. Like I said, I've kept up with my WhipGo ornament board. So this first group are from, in 2022, Celebration of Needlework did a monthly kit series for the 12 Days of Christmas. And the ornaments were, each ornament was from a different designer, and they went in order. And I thought it was a really cool thing. They were really affordable at the time. You got a kit. I mean, even, you know, the fabric to stitch on, the threads, the finishing materials to finish them as the designer chose. So it was cool. And since I had to come up with new ornaments for my WhipGo board this year, I thought it would be a good idea to throw these in there. So I've stitched several of them. They're not going in order. They're going according to my WhipGo calls. So these will be in kind of random order as well. And this first one is 11 Piper's Piping by the Purple Thread. And here this is. It's stitched on a piece of 32 count. The selvage at the top is orange, so I'm pretty sure it's Belfast by Zweigart, white linen, one thread over 2, except for a few small pieces like the feathers in the hat that are 1/1. So, and I usually stitch 2 threads over 2 on 32 count, but the designer's instructions called for 1/1, and I did that to make sure I had enough of the materials. There's a couple of personalizations in here. I got the counting off on the border, so I just kind of went with it and made things fit. Pretty sure the threads are all DMC except for the gold metallic in the horn, and I used the gold metallic for his buttons as well. So, and again, I've got finishing for this. The designer finished it as a flat fold with a ribbon hanger, which I'll be doing that. This is the 5th day, or 5 rings, and this is by Maria, I think her last name is Vitale, of MTV Designs. She provided a piece of linen by a dyer named Eclipse, I believe it is, an Italian dyer, and her threads were all Romy Creations threads, and this was a really fun piece to stitch on. The bad part was it didn't really fit in a hoop, any of the hoops that I had, so I stitched this one in hand, which was a bit of a challenge for me, but I'm really pleased with how this came out. And I've got finishing materials for that one as well. This is 9 Ladies Dancing, and this is by Eileen Bennett of the Sampler House. And I'm going to show you just the cover chart real quick because you'll see she put a really pretty blue border around this. I usually don't like my ornaments to be really big ornaments, so I left the blue border out and I just stitched everything else. And this is 9 Ladies Dancing, and she was a really fun stitch. She's on a piece of 30 count linen. It feels like it's probably a witch oat linen, just a cream color. 2 threads over 2 DMC threads. And I have to say, I've had a little, I don't know if it's truly self-imposed, but a little bit of drama with some of these. The kits, I believe, were provided by the designers. I don't believe Celebrations kitted these. And I don't feel like I, waste my thread. But there are several of these that I haven't had enough thread. Fortunately, most of them use DMC, and I know we were doing this. These were designs in 2022, and things were still kind of hard to come by. So I understand, but a couple of them have been a bit of a challenge. The biggest one is you'll see the 6 geese design, because the designer used Valdani, and she didn't give a thread number or anything. It was a Valdani pearl cotton, and I ran out like halfway through the goose. I don't know if something accidentally got left out of my kit, if they accidentally put, half the floss in that they were supposed to put in, or what. But it was really difficult on the Valdani website to really find out which color was going to match up. It was variegated, so I kind of had to match. I was halfway through the goose. Didn't have a good way to do anything except get other floss. So I ended up buying like 3 balls of Valdani pearl cotton to make sure I had the right color. So that was a little frustrating. The rest of them have all been DMC threads, and some of the kits have been kind of unclear on whether you're supposed to use 2 strands or 1 strand, and maybe that's part of it, is that, if it's 32 count, I usually stitch over, 2 over 2, and maybe the designer prefers 1 over 2, or maybe designers aren't used to kitting up their own things. I'm not sure. Some of them have been very well done and very well put together. Some of them have kind of been a chart with floss threads and the finishing materials, and kind of just say stitch as you would. So I'm not really I'm not complaining. Like I said, it's my kind of self-imposed drama. But I'm going to have a really cool set of ornaments when this is done, and I enjoy 12 Days of Christmas things, and most of these I'm very happy with. So having said that, this next one is 3 French Hens, and this is by Fairy Wool in the Wood, and I love the fabric she gave us. It is modeled like you see here. The camera's not making it much starker than it is. It's all stitched with DMC, and I love the color combinations here. This was a fun one to stitch. And this next one, this is the one I was telling you about. This is 6 geese a-laying. And you can, if you look closely, you might be able to see where the thread in the geese may not completely match up. But I'm happy with how it came out. The thread provided for the words was a variegated thread, so that's why we've got some red in the middle there. I think this is a cute little ornament. I'm happy with how it came out. I think it's just a piece of French country mocha linen. The couple of the threads are Gentle Arts threads. I think the darker color for the beak and the wing are DMC, just a solid DMC. And the goose was stitched with a Valdani pearl. So, and this was by Susan Greening, I believe, was the designer. So, and you know what? I don't have the cover here. I think I left some stitches off of this. I see there's a gap in stitches between the beak of the goose and the rest of their face. I'll have to look at that. Huh. Maybe I'm not done. So I have to check that out. This next one is really cool. This is a fun one. And I'll show you the cover because I haven't attached the chart yet, or the charm yet. This is 12 Drummers Drumming, and this was done by Old Colonial Designs. And you can see they made it into a drum here, which is what I'm going to do. We got the felt for the top and bottom, we got the cording, we did get the drum charm, which I have not yet attached. I'm going to have to iron this one more time. But the really cool thing is the instructions they give you, they use a toilet paper roll to give the drum, you know, structure and help it hold up without being too heavy to hang on a tree. So that's cool. You know, and it's something that everybody has. And I'm sorry about the dogs in the background. We've got my mom's dog. My mom is at my youngest nephew's baseball game this weekend. So I don't know what they're barking at. They're on alert. So those are the ornaments I've stitched from that series so far. I do have another one in progress that I'll show you when I get to whips. And the rest of these are also whip go calls, but they're from some of the old just cross stitch ornaments. So this first one is Merry Mooseness, and I believe this was by Something in Common, and it's from the 2002 Just Cross Stitch ornament issue. Stitched 2/2 on a 32 count lamb's wool Jobelin. And all the required all the called for DMC, and he's just adorable. I just love him. So there's that one. This next one is Perfect Gifts, and I want to say this may also be by Something in Common, or it might be by somebody else. I'll have to look it up. I'll look it up and get it on for you. But this is on 40 count summer khaki linen. And it's called Newcastle, so I think it's by Zweigart. And I remember I bought this because it was the first time I'd ever seen anything like 40 count, and I wanted to try it. So I used all the required materials, except I subbed. This button is a sub for the charm that was called for, and then the ribbon threads at the top are slightly different than what was called for, but they go with the piece, and I really like how this one came out. This is Three Wise Men by Marie Barber, and this one is from, let me see here, this also is from 2002. This is on a Perman linen silk. I don't think they even make this anymore. The color is woodland, which I really like. And holy backstitching. We certainly in the early 2000s, late 90s did backstitched everything. But I'm happy with how this came out. If you're trying to stitch this, there are a few challenges. Some of the symbols seem not quite right. I kind of looked at the picture and went with what the picture had. And I think I didn't have the metallic on this inner zigzag border, if you can see it. I didn't have the metallic that they called for, so I substituted something I did have. But I'm really happy with how this came out. This is Cardinal Ornament by Victoria Sampler. And this one is from, what year was this one from? Cardinal Snowflake Ornament. This is from the 2004 Just Cross Stitch Ornament issue. And it's stitched on a standard 28 count Amsterdam blue linen. This was this got called the same month as the Wise Men got called, which was really good because this isn't a huge amount of stitching, and the Wise Men was really stitch intensive, but worth the work. This is Britty Christmas Kitty, or Britty Christmas Kitty from Britter Cup Designs. Stitched on a piece of 28 count Queen Anne's lace using the required flosses. This is 1/1. And I did pick this one up because I don't have a picture of the finish in the magazine here. They have a really cool pillow style finish, and they give the instructions on how to do that. So I wanted to try that. And my last ornament so far for this year is, it's called Christmas Ornament 2005. It's from, obviously, the 2005 Just Cross Stitch Ornament issue. I forget who the designer is. I'll try to put it on the screen here. It's called for the stitched with the called for DMC colors. I swapped out the beads and the charm in the middle for things that I had in my stash. This is, you can't really see it, this is on a 28 count opalescent cashel, and you don't really see the sparkle in the fabric there. I like how that came out. Colors are a little different, not traditional Christmas colors, which is always a little bit fun to have. So that's everything that I've gotten done this year. Really pleased with that so far. So next up, we'll talk about some works in progress. And again, these aren't in any particular order. I haven't kept a record, really a good record this year of what I've worked on when, or how I've, how much I've worked on it. Get a little dry. Let me grab a drink here. And I do have a couple other finishes that I don't have available. I may have some pictures and I can put them in. I did participate in Laura from Stitching by the Shore. I'll link her down below. I did participate in her last artist trading card swap, which was Stitch Something from Where You Live. So I designed a couple of Woodstock oriented pieces. I live 5 miles from the site of the original Woodstock Music Festival in 1969, and it's currently it's been turned into a performing arts center. So we spend a lot of time there in the summer. We're members, and it's easy for us to go. We can get in and out a back way, so we don't have the extended time to get out of the venue that some other folks may have. And they do a really good job there. It's just that when you have thousands of people who come in over the space of hours and everybody's trying to get out in 20 minutes, it just takes a while. But they're very organized. They do get people in and out as efficiently as possible. So if I do have pictures of those, I thought I took pictures of them. I'll insert them here just so you can see them. I'm pretty happy with how they came out. I charted them by hand. I actually used some old style acetate graphing paper to do that. So like I said, I'm pretty happy with how they came out, and hopefully I did grab pictures of them. So that's everything that I finished. So now, in no particular order, is all of my existing works in progress. If I know that I worked on them this year, I'll let you know, but I probably don't have starting pictures. And if I don't know, I don't know, right? So grab a drink and let's have at it. So I'm going to start with what I have sitting here on my table next to me. First up is a Jim Shore Milh Hill kit. This is a snowman, and he's actually, the kit on this one has 14 count blue Ada, and I've carried him around. He's been a work in progress for literally years. I've carried him around for quite a while in different work bags, and I've been working on him this year and enjoying it, and here's where I'm at. So all I've got left to do is that square background around everything, and then the beads. So not sure I'll get them finished this year. That would be cool, but I'm not going to commit to it. Next up, I stitched everything that's done on this one yesterday. This is 10 Lords of Leaping from that ornament series. And this is by Annie B's Folk Art. And this kit and these instructions were very, very well done. This is stitched on a piece of 36 count, probably natural linen. I don't think she told us what color it was. Let me see. It just says 36 count cross stitch linen. And she called for stitching 2 threads over 2, which fortunately it's not a full coverage design, so the bulk isn't too bad. But you can see everything's DMC. and I got all of the alphabet finished except for the P and the W, which are my initials. And I'm going to stitch them in the same gold in his pants. And then I have the top and bottom. I have the little holly berries at the top and that border at the bottom, and then they'll be done. I generally take these when I work at the 911 center and stitch when the phones aren't busy, so probably another shift and that'll be done. So by next time that'll be done. I work again on, when do I work again? Friday night. So Fridays, it's the time of year when Fridays are busy, so I may or may not be done, but we'll see. Next up, this is my current Whip Go call, one of my current Whip Go calls for the month of June. And this is, let me see how we do this without a whole lot of glare. This is, there we go, the Toys and Games stocking. This is from a book, the Heirloom Christmas Stockings in Cross Stitch by Better Homes and Gardens. I think these were also published in Cross Stitch and Country Crafts magazines. You can find these in the magazine issues. Man, I'm running out of places to put things that I've already shown you. But here's where I'm at. I haven't picked it up. Like I said, it is a Whip Go call. I'm feeling like maybe I will work on it a little bit this afternoon. As soon as I get done here, I want to go watch the NASCAR race. And hold on, I'm just trying to gather this together. So here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm at with this. You can see I've got one more shelf to do. I've got to fill in the background on that train, one more shelf to do, and then the top of the toy cabinet and the wallpaper. So I really don't have all that much to do on this one. Just need to sit down and do it. And it can be a little fiddly. It's got a lot of back stitching. You know, they're all from, I forget what the copyright dates are, but they're all from, you know, the early 2000s and when, I mean, maybe even the 1990s when we did a lot of that back stitching. But I do have to say the back stitching really brings everything to life in that one. The other two that are sitting here on the table by me are my two focus whips for this year. First one is the Water Garden Mandala by Chatelaine Designs. So there's that. I'm participating in Amy from Fiber Arts. Amy and Maggie from Kitschy Whips are doing a year-long stitch-along on this, or a SAL. And I'm way behind, but we should have it finished by the end of the year. And I had a couple months where I didn't get a lot of stitching on this, but I picked it back up, and there's a lot of stitches, but they're not hard. Okay, don't ever be intimidated by Chatelaine. It's really just one stitch at a time, and she does great instructions for any of the specialty stitches. And you get to use some fun fibers. So here is where I am at right now. You can see I've got a thread. Last time I picked it up, I was trying to work on it with a headache, and that didn't work out so well. So that's where I'm at. I haven't done any of the beading. I'll do all the beading at the end. So a lot of these, you know, empty spots in here, those are for beads. I'm stitching this with the called for materials on a piece of 32 count Lugana in the colorway Mandala by Oak Crown Studios, which is Fiber Arts Amy's fabric dyeing business. Her fabrics they're amazing to work with. I love stitching on them. So I have that mandala going on a piece of hers as this next piece. This is Miss Dancing Flowers by Nora Corbett of Mirabilia Designs, and that's the cover piece. I'm stitching this. This is also a stitch along. This was started by Kelly from Pages and Stitches. That's Pages 3 Stitches is her channel name and her Instagram name. And she and Tammy Cinnamon Stitches did a stitch along starting in November for Japanese Culture Day, the beginning of November. And I decided to participate. The hashtag for that is the Gorgeous Geisha Sal, Gorgeous Geisha SAL. I'm doing this 1/1 on a piece of 20 count Ada in the colorway Orchid by, again, this is another Oak Crown Studios piece. And here's where I'm at. I've got the entire lower page of the chart finished, except for beads. Now, this is kind of classified as what we've started calling a mini Mirabilia, which came out of the 2023 Mirabilia Queen City Stitchers Retreat. And it was a phrase that got coined for stitching Mirabilias, maybe 2/2 on 40 count, 1/1 on 20 count. Some people have gotten as crazy as 1/1 on 25 count. So the big challenge with that is a lot of the beads and treasures that Nora uses. Some of these were the smaller beads, so I believe a size 15 beads will generally work on 20 count if they're not too condensed. So there were some of these that were the smaller beads that I kept. I did get the beads, and I'm going to put beads on them. And there were some treasures on her, like here. Here, let me show you. She does have some treasures that I have another idea for what I'm going to do in that space, because the treasures would just be too big. But if you can see, sorry guys, let's see. Down in the lower part of her skirt, you can see there's those three, yep, there they are. 3 empty pink squares in the middle there. Those are supposed to be treasures, and I have an idea for what I want to do for them. I'll share that with you when I get to that point. My goal is to have her finished by October, because I am going to the Queen City Stitch Retreat again this year, which is again a Mirabilia themed retreat. So, and we're very lucky Nora will be joining us. But having said that, I did find something. You guys know I haven't been doing a lot of shopping. I've been trying to use what I have in my stash. But I did find on the Silver Needles website, they have this, which is a color chart for Milh Hill's beads. And very similar to the DMC color chart, which I know a lot of you have, and which is very, very valuable when you want to either change colors or you need to see what's close. But it has color samples of all the different Milh Hill beads. It's 1, 2, 3. It's like 4 pages of the color samples, and then it's got a whole inventory sheet with all of their beads. I'm very happy to find this, and then it's got information on available sizes and quantities. How many beads are in some of the packages. So I thought this was a cool thing to have, because as I continue to do smaller Mirabilias, this will help me. With Miss Dancing Flower, I really just guessed on picking metallic colors. I'm using Petite Treasure Braid, and I really just picked based on the color name that I found on the Milh Hill website. This should help with that. And I think it was only like maybe $2.50 or something like that. It was really a minimal cost. I got mine at the Silver Needle, their online shop. I'll link that below. So if you're interested in this, I think it's a good find. Go ahead and grab one. And there's probably other shops that are making them available as well. I don't know if Milh Hill just started putting that out, and that's why I haven't seen it before, or I don't know. But so those are the Chatelaine and Miss Dancing Flower are my 2 real focus pieces for this year. Those are the 2 that I really, really want to get done. And that's kind of why my other WIPGO stuff has been kind of falling by the wayside, because I'm a member of the Whip Warriors group. It's a Facebook group that uses challenges and games to get people working on their existing projects. And it's closed right now. It opens in November, and during the near the end of November, and kind of for the month of December, they kind of let new people take a look and see you know, what the challenges are. Participation is required. It's a group that requires participation. So you can get a look at what the challenges are like and see if it's for you. So I've been making those two pieces meet the challenges that I need to do to keep my membership active there. I like it. It really keeps me working on my existing projects. So these next three pieces are some of my older whips that I know I have not touched this year, and I had to grab pictures of them, so I really want, they're sitting here on the table, and this way I can get them out of the way. The first one is, it's Peacock, Terresa Wler. I forget the name of it. I think it's Peacock Sampler. Anyway, she's a beast, and when I started her on the recommended fabric, which was actually 25 count potato Lugana, and this is where I'm at. I got into these, you know, all these leaves here, which are confetti heavy, and the original chart is a hand-drawn chart, as many Terresa Wenslers are. And given the changes in the industry and charting, it's really hard for me to work on. I did find, however, that is available. I think it's available in one of Terresa Wensler's best of books, but it's also available on Patterns Online, and then you can print it to a PDF and work from an updated computer-generated chart. So I think that's going to really help me a lot. I'm hoping to pull that out when it gets called this year for WhipGo. Next up is another chatelaine, the King's Vegetable Garden. This was released as Mystery 9 when Martina was releasing these, and so it was released part by part. And this was called this year. I'm stitching it with all the recommended materials on the recommended fabric. Oh, and there's a nasty rusted needle. Don't leave your needle in your pieces, folks. You can see I've got a few of these, but fortunately none of them are anywhere that's going to be visible. So this is where I've gotten to. I've got a little bit down here that I can't unroll. And this was called this year, and I pulled out all my materials, and I was all set to pull it out, and I don't have the entire chart. I'm sure I didn't print them out, and I saved them on a hard drive that I no longer have, thanks to, you know, the joy of hard drive crashes, etc., and forgetting to back things up or not taking the time to back things up. So I did go to the Chatelaine website. I purchased a PDF of the entire chart, and I'll be able to pull that out at some point this year, which will make me happy. This is, so, and then my final very old languishing work in progress is English Garden Sampler, again by Terresa Wensler. So this is in the Best of Terresa Wensler Sampler collection book. That's what it looks like. I bought the kit for this, and I'm using the kit materials. I've got so much in here I'm not going to restart it, but the fabric margins are pretty scant on this, and I really need to serge the edges of this. This is where I've gotten to. It was called for WhipGo last year. I didn't work on it because I'm struggling to find where I am in all of the confetti in this central fountain scene. So I want to take some time at some point this year, pull that out, really sit down and spend some time figuring out where I am and get some work in on that. Because I love it, I want it finished, and I enjoy the challenge of working on a Terresa Wensler. And especially since I have, again, the original chart that came in the kit was hand-drawn, but because I have the charts in the book, you know, they're computer-generated. They were redone to be included in those books, so that does make it easier. And I think if you're looking for it, I think that one is also available at patternsonline.com. I'll put the link down below. This piece is my other Whip Go call for this month. This is Edith Walford, and it's by the Silver Lining. I'm not a huge fan of irises, but I picked this one up because Mark Sastot, who is the artist and the designer, has such a fantastic way with color that he, you just don't anticipate some of the colors that go into these pieces, and then when they all blend together, you think, holy cow. So I think, I'm just trying to see if I can figure out which way is up. I think this is the top, and that's where I've gotten to with that. I did work on it last year, and I got some good progress. All the, sorry about that, all this purple down in here was, oops, I'm going the wrong way. All this purple down in here, that's what I worked on last year. So should be able to get some more good work done on that. I'll pull that out this month. My Whip Go goals for my works in progress are 4 days. So that's 4 stitching sessions. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 4 hours if it's a weekend day that I don't have anything going on. So we'll see. This is another older whip which has had its drama. This is Day Surrendering Tonight, and this one's I've seen this in a couple different places. This particular version is by Custom Crafts. So I started this. This is on, I'm pretty sure this is on 28 count over 2, and that's where I've gotten to. I'm in the upper left hand corner, and you can just see the very beginning of Night's Wing in there. So I started this, and then I lost the chart for a while, and then I lost the floss for a while. I think now I've got it all back together. I mean, it's only DMC, so I could pull other floss, but I did buy specific floss for this and then couldn't find it. Let's see. I think I've got everything unzipped, so we shouldn't have too much zipping and unzipping. So let's see what we have in here. This is another Milh Hill Santa, and I actually just started this last week while I was in Boston. This is the Smoky Mountain Santa from the Appalachian Santas. We love Tennessee and the Smoky Mountains and are actually hoping to move there within the next year. So this seemed appropriate, and I got a really small start. I just got his green sleeve in there. But I like having one of these to go, ready to go. I mean, they're a kit. They, you know, everything's there. They even give you needles if you need needles. I usually use my own. I like stitching on the perforated paper. And the wooden frames, I forget the name of the company, I'll have to look it up. I got mine. It's the same people that are making the one size for Keepsakes in Cincinnati. They came from Ukraine. They came really quickly, but you can get them. There's all sorts of them. Go look on Etsy for wooden, I think wooden magnetic stitching frame would do it. But you can find them in all sorts of places. This is Pretty Little Chicago by Satsuma Street. I started this last year when Andrew, the runner stitcher, was running the Chicago Marathon. And I forget what the hashtag was that he came up with, but he came up with a stitch-along for people who wanted to stitch on pretty much anything you wanted while he was running the Chicago Marathon. And I thought this was especially appropriate. So here's where I'm at with this. Put this behind it. I'm stitching this on an, I think it's a 16 count Ada. It's a standard Zweigart, but it's one of their printed ones. I think it's Vintage Stormy Clouds or Stormy Clouds, something like that. And that's where I've gotten to. So I actually don't have, there's actually quite a bit down here. There's the Navy Pier Ferris wheel, the Art Institute, but on the top part, I'm getting, I think there's one other building that has to be done. So these are, I love Satsuma Street charts. They're really easy to work from. And these Pretty Little City series that she has, she tells you what the landmarks are that are in the chart, so that's a lot of fun. This is another Terresa Wensler kind of got things mixed and matched here. I told you this was going to be no particular order. So this is one that I don't see very often. This is Holly and Ivy sampler. And this is, I don't have the copyright date here on the cover, but this was from once she started doing her own charts. You can see the TW Design Works logo in there. This one, it's not something I've seen terribly often, but it's beautiful, and I love the song. So here's where I'm at. This is a piece of 28 count. I think the color is called mint green, and it is looks like it's probably Lugana. And this was a standard color. You can't, I mean, it's such a pale green that you don't see it until you put white thread. So the white work in this chart will show up really nice. And I bought it at a store that I didn't realize didn't always cut fabric straight. So fortunately, I have plenty, and this piece will fit. But the color was discontinued even when I bought it. I think I bought the last piece that the shop had. Next up is Father Winter by another Terresa Wensler. And I have the kit materials, and that's what I'm using. And I'm going to change this up a little bit. I'm not sure I'm going to do this whole outside border there. And I think instead of doing the alphabet, I think I counted it out, and I think I have room. I can do Merry Christmas. Obviously, I've got all the letters, so that'll work. And I think I'm going to do just the one interior border. Kind of was thinking about that when I was working on this last year. So here's where I'm at. So if you do buy one of these kits, it's a Janlin kit. So the materials are really nice. This is actually a piece of, I think it's 27 count Linda fabric, which is a nice fabric to work on. It's an even weave, but it kind of has the look and feel of linen. And of course it's all DMC. But the chart in the kit is a hand-drawn chart. The chart is available in the Best of Terresa Wensler Christmas book, so I have that as well. And again, I would check patternsonline.com because you may be able to get it there. This is Siam Fusion by Sampler Cove, and I am doing the motif sampler here. You see that one? Of course, it's the bigger one. Why not, right? I haven't worked on it this year. I did work on it last year. I'm using all the called for silks. And let me just see if I'm going to show you this the correct way. Where are these guys? Okay, yeah. This was called for using, the threads are all silks. They're all Caron Collection Soie Cristal. I'm using those silks, but instead of the black linen called for, I am using a charcoal linen, which is just a little bit lighter, just a little easier to see. Okay, that's it in that bag. I've got 3 different baskets here, so we're getting there. This piece is a newer start. It's a newer release. This is Be Still My Heart, Hydrangeas by Samplers Not Forgotten. Came as a complete kit. And you know, I've said before, I generally don't. It even came with the finishing. It came with this, with the lace around the edge and the backing fabric, which is really pretty, and all the threads, and the fabric to stitch it on, which is a 36 count gray from Weeks Dye Works. And I don't often stitch on new things or things that you see a lot of people stitching, but I love hydrangeas, and I jumped right in and gave this a start. This is just This is just one evening stitching. Started in the middle, which are a bunch of the greens there. So the chart is really well done, and I'm actually really looking forward to getting some more progress on this one. Put that over there because I may work on that this afternoon. This was my birthday start from 2023, I believe. Maybe 2024. I don't remember. But this is Sarah Mara Larkworthy by Hands Across the Sea. And she's got a lot of, so these flowers are all satin stitches. There's stem stitch here. It's a lot of the freehand embroidery, which I enjoy. So I started her. I haven't had much of a chance to work on her. And if you look at these colors here, you know, it looks like blue and red. And then when I pulled the DMC colors. Now maybe the silks are different, but I chose to stitch with the recommended DMCs. And these are the colors here. Doesn't call for a whole lot of colors, but they're kind of it's the 501 is the green, 3768 is the blue. It's not that bright blue. And these are the other colors. It's a pretty simple palette. And I'm stitching mine on a piece of 36 count fabric by Tropical Stitches. And I apologize, but I don't remember the color name, and it's not in here. And that's where I haven't pulled it out yet this year. I hope to pull it out soon. So here's a little bit closer view. I got the whole top of the alphabet done and started in those diamonds that have the satin stitch flowers in them. The outline of the diamonds, they're all eyelet stitches. So, and this top band in red was all eyelet stitches too, which I don't mind. I really do love eyelets, so that's not bad at all. I'm not complaining about working on that at all. And this project bag was made for me by my friend Kelly from Pages and Stitches. Isn't that beautiful? And it's such a nice size. I really like it. Here we have Christmas at Hawthorne Hollow, which I know you guys, you've seen lots of people have worked on it. It's not a new chart. And this is where I'm at with that. I've got one block finished. I'm working in the second block. Pam from Stitching in the Land of Good Enough, who owns Stitch New England, has a once a month Zoom call for people working on Hawthorne Hollow pieces. And unfortunately, I haven't had the time to join recently. I think tonight might be another one, so I'm hoping to jump on and get some stitching done and some chatting. This is my version of Winter Rose Manor by Brenda Gervais of With Thy Needle and Thread. And I will have to insert a cover picture because I don't have the chart here. So I'll have to insert a cover picture. But so far, I've got most of the house done. And the next big task is going to be all the snow down here. So I'm using a piece of, looks like 16 count to me. It's Shale by Picture This Plus. And I kept the called for color on the house. I liked that color. I know a lot of people have gone pinker. But I did change out the white thread called for, she called for Roasted Marshmallow, which has gone very yellow. And I'm swapping mine out for Grits, which you'll see next time I pick it up. I should start stitching on the snow. This is Heirloom Nativity Sampler by Victoria Sampler. And if you watch Stitching Mama, she finished this not all that long ago. And I did pull this out for WIPGO this year and got my 4 days in on it, and I've got really good progress going. So I've got it all done. I'm working on the band with the Wise Men. And I've got my Q-snap in a really good spot, so I'm not pulling it off the Q-snap. But I'm about at the halfway point. I'm about half done with this band, which is the middle band. And then there's the band below with the manger scene. And then the white work in Hardhanger. And if you watch Stitching Mama and you don't want to do Hydrangeas, she came up with a really nice solution for subbing in specialty stitches. Definitely worth checking her out. I like Hydrangeas, so I'll probably do what's charted. But it's nice to know that there are other alternatives that look really equally as good. This is Barbara Anna Designs Blue Dreams. I started this because I'm easily influenced by Laura, Stitching by the Shore. I don't know if she's finished hers yet, but she made a lot of progress on hers. I'm using the called for fabric. She went a little more sunset colored, and it's stunning. But here's where I'm at. I'm working over on the side with all of her hair and the waves. I did pull this out a little bit earlier this spring. I had a day when I didn't know what I wanted to stitch on, so I pulled this out. Got some decent progress on it. This is a fun stitch. I love Barbara Anna. Her designs they're different, but her charting is so good, and it's so easy to work on. All right, next up is another one you've seen a lot of, I'm sure. This is Summer Quaker by Leela's Studio. And I started this with Laura from Stitching by the Shore and Beth, the Steadfast Stitcher, 2 summers ago. I think they've both got a lot more progress on theirs than I have on mine. I'm stitching mine on a piece of 18 count cappuccino, I think. It's the called for color. I'm using an 18 count Ada. It's a fiber on the whim fabric. And that's where I'm at. I decided I wanted to do the center seam first because it's so much solid stitching. So what you see where I have the waves, that's the width of the center panel. So I'm really making good progress. I'm kind of working a little bit on the water when I want to do some fill-in, and then adding the other elements. And then I'll go back up and do the village on the top. So this is a fun piece. I'm probably not going to stitch her Autumn Quaker or her Spring Quaker, but I did pick up the Christmas one when she released it this year. And I really like that one too. I think it's Peace on Earth or something, but it's essentially the winter one. This is Elizabeth Isles, 1799, and it's by the Scarlet Letter. I started this, I don't remember what year, but this was for Brenda from Brenda and the Serial Starter. This was a significant birthday start. So I'm actually only stitching this top part. I'm not stitching the verse. And I'm pretty sure I can easily modify the border and just bring it around. So that's what I'm doing there. I'm stitching this on a piece of Jackson Fiber Arts fabric. It's a 30 count made out of hemp. It's a 30 count fabric in their colorway called London Fog, and I think it works really well for this. And I'm using the Roxy Flossco conversion. I'm really happy with how this is turning out. You can see the fabric it's almost like a pinkish brown base with gray modeling. I think it really works for this piece and for the antique look of this piece. I picked up 2 pieces of fabric from them, and you'll see the other one here shortly. I think it works for a sampler type piece. I don't like it for the other piece that I was working on. I was doing a Mirabilia, and I'll show you that here shortly. This is the Loose Feathers by Blackbird Designs, and this is the piece down the bottom. Another one a lot of people have stitched over time, and there's only the 3 seasons. I think it's summer, autumn, and winter. There was no spring. And I'm using a piece of 28 count Jobelin by Seraphim Fabrics in the colorway Antique Lace. Here's where I'm at. I'm working on the center panel. I've got that bottom border the zigzag border is taken all the way over to the edge, as are the letters on the top. So this is fun, and it works up really quickly. It's a good one to pull out if I want just something like comfort stitching. It's real easy to pick up and put down. Stitching 2 over 2 using all the called for colors. What do we have now? Oh, This is, and this one's going to be hard to see. This is Debbie's Designs. Back in 2021, she did a Design of the Month. They're counted canvas designs. And she did a whole series, and I bought all 12 of them, along with the finishing kits. So this is the one from August, called Ice Cream. Who doesn't like ice cream, right? And I have the finishing kit. I'll have that same fabric on the outside. And let's see what I can put behind this, because if I put white behind it, you're not going to see it. So let's try this. I've got part of the border worked, just the white on white. So these are good pieces. I like to take these counted canvas pieces when we go camping because they're easy to work on when you can pick them up and put them down. And also they don't necessarily need a lot of light. They're easy to see. Alright, so let's see. Oh, this is the other piece with the Jackson Fiber Arts fabric. This is Charlotte, and she was the Stitchalong piece for the 2023 Queen City Stitch Retreat. And I started her there, and I thought I really wanted her on a green fabric, and I had this beautiful piece of spring green fabric. Again, it's a Jackson Fiber Arts piece. And just I pulled her out and worked on her again a little bit this spring. And let's see, this is up. So again, between the unevenness of the threads and the color is just not right for this, I really don't like working on it, and I haven't worked on it. I've just done this piece by her knee. And I think the yellow green in this fabric really brings out the oranges in some of those pinks, and I don't like the way it looks. So I'm going to be starting her over on something else. Oh, I've got a needle here. I am not going to frog everything that I've stitched. I'm just not that girl. But you can see, you know, this was a whole fat quarter, so I can, you know, cut this into nice straight edges, serge the edges, because this piece will ravel quickly, and use them for smalls. So the fabric won't go to waste. Next up, I can't really show you this piece because all I have is the chart. But this is the piece that Nora designed for the 2023 Queen City Stitch Retreat. It's a very pretty lady in a big dress holding a needle and thread. I'm using all of the called for fibers, which this is a Carolyn Water Lily silk. I'm using a piece of 32 count Lugana in the color Flapper. And that's where I'm at. I'm using this piece for Andrew, the runner stitcher. He started another stitch along. He's training for another marathon, and he's using the hashtag whip into shape. And he provides a spreadsheet of all of his training miles, and he challenged us to stitch 10 stitches per mile. So I'm about 3/4 caught up with where I need to be. For that, I started late. And you can start it out now. He's got all the information on his Instagram and in some of his floss tubes. I'll link him below. So it's a fun way to get some work on a project that you really want to make some progress on. And people are doing different things. You can also, if you don't count stitches, you can, you know, he also includes the amount of time that he spends running his training sessions each week, so you can stitch the hours that he's run, or some people are, you know, doing more than 10 stitches. There's a lot of fun stuff out there, and if you look at the hashtag, I mean, I know hashtags aren't working the way they used to, but it's still really easy to search on a hashtag on Instagram. Alright, so that's one basket down. I've got another one sitting here, and then we'll be finished. So this is Winter Quakers by Rosewood Manor. I do have all of the seasons, although this is the only one that I've started. I think Carolyn, Seaslook Stitches, I'll link her. I think she stitched all of them. And I bought these from Karen Kluba in 2020 when we were all stuck at home, and she still had the called for fabric. Actually, this one I started before 2020, but I have the called for fabric. I bought this one at my L&S. I have the called for fabric, which is Dwarf by Picture This Plus. It's a 28 count. I think this is one of the colors they may not make anymore because of changes in the dye. But then I bought the other 3 seasons from Karen during 2020 when she had the fabric and threads still available. I'm using the called for Valdani threads, and that's where I've gotten. This is a fun piece. I'm not sure why I don't pull it out more often. I just don't. I won't even say that it's because I'm a seasonal stitcher, because I'm really not. Just one of those that I don't think about often. So hopefully it'll get called for Whipco soon, and I'll get to pull that out. And I have to say, the Valdani threads, they're fun to work with. Some of them are stranded, and you can use, you know, single strands, like the snowflakes are all single strands. And then they make pearl cottons, like what I used in that one ornament. So, and I've really got the biggest motif, that big diamond, that's the biggest motif in the whole thing. So the rest of them, it's kind of like a bunch of small finishes. All right, these are 2 pieces that I started last fall at the Queen City Stitch Retreat, which was, the features designer was Autumn Lane Stitching. So this was one of the Stitchalongs. This was Lovebirds. So there's the piece. And it's shown as a monochromatic piece. And I chose a piece of 32 count Lugana by Picture This Plus in the colorway Monet. And that is a sulky thread that I'm using. I'm using 1 strand over 2. And so I'm going to do these center flowers in the multicolor and probably this top flower motif. But then other parts I'm going to pull out. I think probably DMC by 50 is a good purple. But I'm going to pull out some of the 1 or 2 of the solid colors. Because the sulky variegation changes pretty quickly, as you can see, and I didn't think I would like the whole piece in that whole variegation. And then this is the other piece that I started. It's Falling Leaves and Coffee Please. So there's that. I had the crazy idea to stitch this 1/1 on a piece of 25 count fabric, and here's where I'm at. And I have been struggling and frogging over and over again getting that circle right. So I really want this over 1 because I want it small, and I like the fabric that I'm stitching it on. So I really need to just sit down and maybe scan the chart and get it into Markup RXP and see if that helps me. The circle frame isn't completely symmetrical, and I think that's what's messing me up. So here is, my printer was running out of ink, so the cover picture is crappy, but this is Arabesque by Jan Hicks Creates. And I'm doing this as a stitch along with Beth, the Steadfast Stitcher, and I think the hashtag is just Arabesque Sal, S-A-L. And I know Laura by the Stitching by the Shore is doing this as well. And the 3 of us are doing this in all separate colors. Beth is doing hers in a beautiful blue by Vicki Clayton Silks. I think it's Nile Blue is the color she's using. Laura is doing hers in a red. And I saw this and I immediately thought of The Great Gatsby. So I'm doing mine in Silks for You PR070, which is that gorgeous black, and Petite Treasure Braid 002. And that's where I'm at. This is another one I really want to get back to. I hope it gets called soon to push me to work on it. The chart is really easy. The only reason that I only work on it when I really can sit down and think about it is because it's monochromatic, so the symbols are all the same, and I'm working out, you know, when and where I want to use that gold thread and how I want to do that. So it takes me a little bit of brain power to work on it. This is my 2024 temperature chart. It's a chart that was provided to their Patreon by Fox and Rabbit. The only thing that's stopping me on this one is that I lost my day book with all the temperatures in it. So I need to find that. It's somewhere downstairs in my office. It's got put in a very good place, and I just need to pull it out and get back working on it. So it's charted for all cross stitch. I made some modifications. So the heart is the high temperature for the day. The bow is the low temperature for the day. I'm using DMC 939, I think. It's a dark navy blue for the borders and for the number. And then you can't see too much, but some of the strings holding the bows are in acrylic, and those are days when there was precipitation. And the ones that that are in DMC are the days where there was no precipitation. I'm using 32 count Zweigart. It's that same, I think it's Vintage Stormy Clouds. It's one of their printed fabrics. So I'm enjoying this, and I really like, both of my grandfathers were farmers and kept track daily of temperature. You know, I remember them writing down temperature, precipitation notes, kind of like that. So it kind of makes me feel connected with them, that I was doing something similar. This is Sir Thomas by Glendon Place, and I'm stitching him with all of the called for fibers on the called for fabric, which is 28 count China Pearl Jobelin. I'm using the Sullivan's floss as well as all of the Rainbow Gallery threads. I got a lot done on him last year around Thanksgiving. I really like how he's working up. And you can't really see it. He's very, very sparkly. There's a lot of, there's some petite treasure braid. There's some, oh, what are these other fibers called? What are these? Silken braid, or petite silk lame braid. So that's a fiber mixed with a metallic. But he's a lot of fun, and he works up really quickly when I pull him out. So I need to just do that more, right? And I think this is the last thing that I have to show you guys. And this is On the 12th Day by the Cat's Whiskers. I'm stitching this all as one piece. It could easily be done as ornaments. It's another 12 Days of Christmas design. I'm stitching this on a piece of 28 count opalescent cachelle by Zweigart. The variegated color is Bethlehem by Weeks Dye Works. And I thought I was going to do the whole piece in this, but you can see the variegation changes pretty quickly. And I thought it was going to take away from these pieces here that are almost like a CC work where you stitch the background. So for the ones where you stitch the actual figures, like the drummers here, I'm going to use the Bethlehem. I'm going to do the border around all the squares in the Bethlehem. And then for the ones where you stitch the background, I'm going to use solid DMC. And let me see if I have the colors in here. I pulled out DMC 550, DMC 34, which is this one here. This was the 34. And then I'm going to do a green, which I'm not sure, maybe 522 or 521. I have to see which one looks better. So I'm much happier. It took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do, and I'm much happier now that I made that decision. So we will make some progress on that. And that, my friends, is that. Pretty sure, sorry, getting things cleaned up here a little bit. Pretty sure that's everything. For plans, I'm going to keep working on Miss Dancing Flower, try to get caught up on Water Garden. I also think I want to start In a Perfect World by, I forget if it's Scarlet House or Scarlet Letter. I didn't bring it up here. I know you guys have seen it. It's going to be a memorial for my dad. The wording on it says, "In a perfect world, you'd find me here with the deer and the dogs and the birds." And that was my dad to a T. So I'm going to get that started. I've got everything picked out. I'm going to do it on a piece of 20 count Ada, another Oak Crown Studios piece. And I need to, Kelly, Pages and Stitches and I are going to start another piece at the Mirabilia Retreat. And she asked me to give her some, either pick one or come up with an idea. And I honestly don't know exactly what I want to work on. So I need to look at something like that. So that's my plans for now. Hopefully get caught up with some of my WIPGO goals. I hope you all are doing well. I hope everyone's healthy and you're able, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, I hope summer has finally arrived for you and you're able to enjoy the better weather. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I hope winter is not too terribly cold, unless you really like it cold. And with all the craziness all around the world, please make sure you take care of yourself. Spend some time away from all the hubbub and the noise, doing what makes you happy. If that's stitching, if it's being outdoors, just some time in some quiet. I know for me, when I'm in the office, I take advantage of the fact that we have a gym in our office, and I work out the days that I'm in the office. When I'm home, I will take one of the dogs out for a walk and just kind of have that time frame, but usually about half an hour, where I don't have to think about anything and can just clear my mind. Stitching is very much like that as well, so if that's what does it for you, I hope you're getting time to stitch. And we shouldn't feel selfish, especially I think sometimes us women feel like we need to take care of everybody else first. And I'm very blessed with a husband who will tell me, no, go sit and stitch. I think he sees how it improves my outlook on things. But definitely take that time for you. So stitch on what makes you happy. Like I said, leave me a comment, say hello, let me know that you haven't given up on me. I'm going to do my best to try to do the 2-week schedule. It'd be a little less. This is going to be a long video, so my videos will be, hopefully we'll get them back to the half-hour, 40-minute mark when I'm only showing you what I've worked on for a couple weeks. So I'll say goodbye for now. Again, stitch on what makes you happy. Come back and see me, and love ya. Bye.